Hello and welcome to EduCurious. Today's guest is DeVaughn Johnson, the Director of Transportation for a very large charter school system. Good morning, DeVaughn. I'm so glad you're on the show with us today.
Good morning, Miss Amber. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to learn a little bit about transportation. I see it from my side, but there's so many different sides of transportation. There's the kids, the attendants, the employees, safety, security, everything that it involves. So I'd like to hear a little bit about what your job entails and your role as directing this sort of subsidiary of a school system, but a key element in making it effective.
The job of director of transportation. It entails a lot, from maintaining staff, maintaining, a fleet of buses that are operational, maintaining the safety of the students that we transport, maintaining even a great relationship with all the schools that we service.
Tell me some of the ways that you ensure safety on your school buses.
So one of my main objects, I preach safety daily to the drivers. My main goal or my main focus is speed. If I can, if we just gotta get them to understand that, yeah, it's important that we get the kids to school on time, but it also is more important to make sure that we're maintaining the proper speed and speed limits. Speed limit change. They go from top speed limit to and most of our routes are in the city.
So with safety comes, I'm sure, some of the attendance parts. And we've established a new ID badge system, which helps account for who's on the bus, who's getting off, where they're getting off. Describe that process, why it's important, even though it might seem like we're being a pain with you have to have your ID badge, why it's so vital.
So as far as the school bus goes, there's a new process that we have where a lot of school districts are going to it to even the fact where it helps the parents keep track of your students, make sure that they're boarding the school bus, number one. And then number two, when they're in school, it also, helps a teacher that may not be familiar with that student. It'll help the teacher recognize and identify a student as well. But a lot of the school districts are going to this. So what we have is this new app. It's called Here Comes the Bus. So what that does is help parents track. It also helps them track the bus. So if a parent is sitting at a stop waiting for the bus to arrive, they can sign their student up on this app, using their student ID number or name, and it'll have the student register at that stop. So it'll give the parent a notification when they're within a mile, when the bus is within a mile of that stop. So hopefully they're already at the stop. So one thing that we try to preach is that you have your student there at least 10 minutes prior to the pickup time. So the bus is never going to be early, but it may be late sometimes, depending on traffic or depending on if they were delayed at a school prior to that. But it gives the parent a notification within 1 mile. So, and then when the student scans their ID badge, it'll send a notification to the parent, say, hey, your student has boarded this bus at this particular time at this particular location. And then the parent can track the bus all the way until it arrives at their school of assignment. And if the student, either the driver can scan that student off or the student can scan themselves off, and it'll send the parent another notification that shows that your student has arrived on campus. And vice versa in the afternoon. When the student scans on the bus in the afternoon, it'll send that parent a notification. Then once we drop them off at their assigned stop, they'll receive another notification.
That seems like a really good measure to help with safety and accountability, attendance. I know within the schools and classrooms, we are required by state law that the students have the identifying badge. So it makes sense to have it in transportation. What are some other ways that you are working to have a safer experience with school buses, like bus stops, maybe some cameras, assigned seats? What are you doing actively in that capacity?
So one of Lake Wales Charter Schools' transportation policies is that all drivers have students in assigned seats. Um, and also, it also, well, of course, every bus in the state, as far as I know, in the state of Florida, definitely in Polk County and Lake Wales Charter Schools, we have security systems on the bus. Some buses have cameras on the outside, front and rear camera, and some have it on the side because, we were gearing up for the new stop arm initiative. I think maybe 2 years ago, Congress approved the stop arm initiative to where uh, you would be cited and there would be a fine assessed to not students, but to anyone that's running stop arms on a school bus at a stop. So anytime the stop arm is out.
Well, while we're waiting for that to roll out, what are some guidelines, traffic guidelines that we should be aware of when we're behind a bus on a 2-lane road or when we're behind a bus on a 1-lane road? Give us the overview.
You just have to be conscious as a motorist that anytime you see a school bus, you should already just anticipate that there's a bus stop coming up. Don't be in a hurry and try to beat the bus. So once you see that bus, a bus driver is required to operate to activate their yellows or ambers, whatever some people call them. They're required to activate them at least 200 feet before the arrival of the stop. So 200 feet, that's plenty of time for you as a motorist that's behind that school bus to slow down in time. But some people, some motorists, they be in a hurry, so they may, feel that they can beat the bus before the bus puts those red stop signs out. So the stop arm camera program. So once that bus activates those stop arms, there's going to be a camera on the side of the bus, and it's a license plate reader, as well as continue. It records the license plate as you drive by, whether it be if you're coming from behind or coming in the opposite direction. So there'll be a camera on the front and there'll be a camera on the rear that records your license plate as you pass that school bus.
So it's been a while since I took my driver's test, like
Mhm.
a lot of years. Tell me about the rule on the median if a bus is stopped and you're coming the other way on the median.
You're coming the opposite way. If
Mhm.
it's a paved roadway, if it has a concrete median, you're required to stop. The only way that you're not required to stop if there's a grass median in the middle. So what the concrete median symbolizes, it's one roadway. So if it's a concrete median, or like we'll use like Burns Avenue, it's 4 lanes, and then there's a turn lane that goes down the middle. That's considered a continuous roadway. So you must come to a complete stop if you're coming into the opposite direction. That's probably one of our most troubled areas uh, as a school bus driver, because I don't think a lot of people actually know the rules of the road.
Or it's just been a really long time since they had to read their traffic book. And then on Highway 27, for example, there's the grass divide. So if you're alongside the bus, you have to stop. But if you're coming that other direction, it is separated by grass.
So that's a great example. So we'll use Highway 27 as a subject. So if you're going the same way as the bus, we have some stops that are picked up in the turning lane. So a lot of people don't realize that even though we're not in the lane of traffic, we're in the turning lane, you still have to stop. So that's another trouble. That's another problem area for us.
And it's really for the safety of those students.
Yes.
It's pivotal that the motorists do stop in motorcycles. All right, tell me a little bit about your experience. Being the director of transportation is more of a recent development, but you have worked in that capacity for quite some time. We're very familiar with you. Just
Absolutely.
lead us down your journey.
So I've been in some form of transportation for the last 20 plus years. Of course, I started, in smaller vehicles, box truck, delivering supplies. And then I made a transition into a tractor trailer. So I've been a tractor trailer driver, local for a lot of local companies for maybe the last, 15 years. So, and what brought me to Lake Wales Charter Schools was at my previous employment. I think I just hit a crossroad, and I was just at that time in my life where I was looking for a transition. I had been doing this for so long. I think I became burnout. So I made a decision to kind of step away from that. And I was at home and I was just, trying to plot my next step. And I have a brother. A lot of people may be familiar with it. Coach DeVaughn Johnson. He's my younger brother, and he's employed as a dean here at Lake Wales High School. And he reached out to me and was like, "What's your next move?" He was like, "Well, listen, we have opportunities, for school bus drivers. Have you ever considered that?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I've ever considered that, but I'll give it a try." So I applied. I came in, I made a connection. Then there was an opportunity for the fleet manager that was here previously. She was reaching retirement, and she said that I would be a good pick for her job. So I applied for it. I interviewed for it. I received it, and that led to where I am now, director of transportation.
What is your management style? You've got quite a team under you. They all work so hard. You've got great staff. How do you get things going?
I think my management style. Um, I'm an open I'm an open book. My door is always open, and I try to get them to understand if anything's bother you, if you're not happy with my form of leadership, come let me know, and we'll see how we can improve on that. I'm very laid back. I'm easygoing, but I also lay out what I expect from you. This is what we're here for. Um, we're here to get the kids to and from safely. Maintain our delivery times, pickup times. That's our main objective. My management style. I'm not a micromanager, but I do check in. I try to check in with my drivers daily just to see how they're doing.
What is your vision for the next couple of years with transportation?
One of the visions definitely is to have a transportation hub to where like I can have buses. We can have us a wash station. To make sure the buses are staying clean. Break room for the drivers. Some don't have the opportunity to go home during the midday. Just to save a few money. Save some money on fuel. So some of them just kind of hang around at the park, or they'll we have a little a station above the softball field where it's a break room for the driver. Some of them go there, but I would like to have somewhere to where they can be closer to us, to where if they have a question for us, come on in and ask us, you know, and vice versa. And one of the other goals is to have a full staff of drivers. You know, that's been a that's been a process. You hire the drivers, and there's always a better opportunity for them. But I think we have the best model here because we don't just pay a driver for their route. We have we call it true time. So a driver's getting paid for everything that they're doing, whether it be washing their bus, fueling their bus, um, coming in, sitting with us, meeting with us, asking us questions. So, we try to let them know, you know, this is probably the best school bus operation, I think, in the area.
So if I had somebody I knew that I was interested in becoming a bus driver? What's the process to getting started?
So first, if you don't have, of course, you have to have a commercial driver's license. And if you don't have a commercial driver's license, there may be an opportunity to where, you can come in, we'll train you, we'll give you all the tools that you need, to obtain that commercial driver's license. But first goal is, if you don't have that, you would definitely have to take the permit, obtain your permit, apply at lwcharterschools.com. You go to the transportation and apply to be a school bus driver. That would be number one. Then, once you obtain your permit, also obtain a copy of your lifetime driving record. Uh, if you're qualified, of course, we'll give you the job and we'll train you. Our training process, it probably takes up to 2 months. We give them a series of skills tests, book knowledge, vice versa. We'll put you on the bus and give you a little experience of what it's like to make student stops, railroad crossings, um, you know, and other stuff that'll help you succeed as being a school bus driver. We'll teach you the tools of student management, which I think is one of the most important parts of the job. So we have a lot of people that come in and they don't realize that student management is probably the biggest form of distracted driving, way far above cell phone usage. And that, student management, I think, is probably the biggest form of driver distraction. So, I think if you as a school bus driver, if you set the tone from day one to let those students know what's expected of them, um, operation, you would have any issue with it.
Do you have a few tips that have worked well with bus drivers that have effectively managed the students and had order and direction and clarity on their bus? What are some top three things?
So one of my top things is if you as a driver, if you have a clean interior of your bus and students see that the interior of your bus is in order, that's one of the most calming effects of a student, and then there's a constant reminder to let the students. I think a lot of students, they're in school and they had this certain form of behavior that they have to model while they're in class. So I think when they get on a school bus, they feel that's when they can let their hair down and get away with all this stuff before they get home until they have to fall back into another form of model behavior. So what I tell drivers from day one, if you, I'm not saying keep them contained, but hey, can you keep your voice down? So use our inside voices on the school bus. You know, keep their legs out of the aisle. Like if you just have a constant level of auto behavior, let them know what's expected of them. I think a driver have no problem on the bus. And I understand a lot of them, they come in and they may be having a bad day and they just want to get the students on, get them home, get them to school, and go on with their day. So, and I think, and they get comfortable in doing that. But if you just say, hey, can y'all keep y'all voices down, or hey, can y'all stay in y'all seats? Drivers won't have no problem.
What does a day look like for a bus driver? Like, what would make somebody say, oh, that job sounds very doable with my life? What kind of hours or seasons is a bus driving job?
So bus drivers, they're 10 months. They work 10 months out of the year. So here at Lake Worth Charter Schools, of course, we have bus, Monday through Friday, school days. I would just say school days. The average bus driver day begins at 5 a.m. We have some routes that begin as early as 5 a.m. And of course, we have three tiers. So we have high school, elementary, middle school. And usually after their middle school route is done and they complete their post-trip procedures, whether they be fueling, any paperwork that they have to uh, complete, such as bus referrals or tracking their mileage. that day usually ends between 9 and 9:30. So they have that time up to themselves between 9:30, and they usually begin to arrive back to their bus, usually about 1:30 p.m. And they'll do their pre-trip, and they'll go through all their pre-trip procedures. And they usually, our first school of pickup is Lagos High School. So they're usually stationed on the ramp by 2 o'clock. And they're usually sitting there, congregating amongst each other, just, hey, what did you do today? Or, what are you going to do later? Getting to know each other basically. And high school dismissals at 2:25. So from 2:25 to maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock, they're on the road dropping students off. And, the average day ends for a driver between 5:30 and 6.
What do you wish that parents knew about this side of transportation? What would make your life a little more streamlined?
The bus is coming, whether it's late or there's a sub driver that may have, you know, missed that stop, in error, give us a call, let us work it out. School doesn't always know the situation, so they can always give us a call, 863-215-8524. That's our number. Someone is always in the office, unless one of us is filling in on the school bus, which happens, quite often because, my main goal is to get the students, to and from. And I think that's why a lot of the drivers here, they respect me because I'm willing to get in the trenches right along with them. I'm pretty sure you've seen me on the school bus on a number of days. So, and that's my main objective here is to get the school kids to school, whether they're 10 minutes late or 15 minutes. That's the main objective. But I just, parents, just the bus is coming. Another thing I wish that parents understand is, when your child is on the school bus, they're our responsibility. We're not there to mistreat them. We're not there to demean them in any type of way, but there's a certain level of respect that goes to that school bus driver. Um, that's what I try to teach them to, you know, command that respect. There's a code of conduct that's still followed on school bus because that's an extension of school property. So anytime, students at a bus stop, school bus, they have to maintain that same behavior that's demanded of them in a school.
If something happens at a bus stop, some sort
Right.
of conflict,
Right.
what's the route a parent should go to get it rectified?
Well, if it happens at a bus stop, depending on the severity of it, you know, it's you can make the driver aware of it, but if the driver didn't witness it, he can't really write a referral. So that their first level of contact, depending on the severity of it, should always be the school. And have the school address it, and more often than not, the school will call transportation and give us, give us a heads up and say, hey, can we keep an eye on this? I had a parent say, Johnny was bullying Susie at the bus stop. So what I'll do is I'll relay that message to my driver and say, hey, can you keep Johnny and Susie, can you keep an eye on them on the school bus? Make sure there's no form of bullying happens on the school bus, which happens more often than not, believe it or not. So that would be the parents just, and if it's to the point to where they feel law enforcement needs to be involved, they should take that step.
What do you
Well,
wish that your schools knew more about with transportation? Maybe give us a little overview of like, hey, this would be really helpful if you knew this.
yeah, so same thing, the bus is coming, transportation, there's no 2 days that are the same in transportation, whether it be, an extra accident or a driver may have just been running late, but the bus is coming. I promise you the bus is coming. That's my only thing that I wish that the schools understood more of.
What if somebody moves? and you're trying to get on a new route. What's that process like?
Well, we receive those calls quite often. So our first advice to them is contact the school that your child is assigned to and change the address with them. Once the address is changed at the school level and it's updated in Focus, I will receive daily imports from Focus into my routing system that will update that address. And if they feel that they need to contact us to make us aware of that, you know, please do. We prefer that the school, sends us an email as opposed to a parent calling, because we have to wait at least 24 hours before we receive that information. So if the school can go ahead and email us and give us uh, heads up to let them know, hey, Johnny had a change of address, they're going to require a new bus stop, and then we'll follow up.
I've had a couple kids ask pretty consistently, hey, I am going to be at my friend's house after school. Can I get dropped off there because we have a basketball game? What happens when a question like that is asked? Or I'm staying with my grandma tomorrow. What do I do?
Our answer is always no, because I don't want to put that responsibility on my driver that may not know that student and to where he's getting off. So we do not allow courtesy transportation, courtesy rides. I would say courtesy rides, for a 24-hour period. Even if they're approved through the school, we do allow it in some emergency situations. If there's an emergency situation where this has to happen, you know, we usually may give that approval if it's coming from the school and if the school's aware of it. Because if that student, decides they want to go to a friend's house and mom doesn't know about it, mom's gonna blame is always gonna come back to us or the school to why did we allow this to happen?
Are there any other things that would be helpful for parents, teachers, admin, fellow drivers, or potential drivers to be aware of about your transportation department?
Yeah, I just, I think Lake Wales Charter Schools transportation, it's headed in a positive direction. I've probably been here about 3 years. I've been in this role less than a year, and I've seen improvement every year.
So, DeVaughn, what's been some of your biggest challenges over the last bit in your role?
I think one of our biggest challenges is maintaining a level of driving staff that is required to be effective in school transportation. Um, a lot of that from the previous year definitely probably was the rate of pay, but this school year there was a significant increase in rate of pay. So I think that's one of the tools that have helped us maintain a staff. We're maintaining about 18 drivers. I think to effectively operate, I think I need to be 23, 24. You know, so there's interview process. We're interviewing daily. If anybody's looking to get into this field, hey, give us a call at 863-215-8524, or you can send us an email at transportation@lwcharterschools.com and let us know that you're interested in being a driver. And we'll have you fill out an application. We'll bring you for an interview. And if you fit the qualifications, we'll be glad to have you.
Always love seeing quality drivers. It makes all the difference in the world because that sort of sets the tone for the kids that step onto our campus. They've had a nice, peaceful bus ride. They're in a lot better of a mood when they get off and come on with us. And a little chance to brag. What is something that you're really proud of in your role, or something that you've gotten an award or accomplishment lately?
Well, I think my greatest accomplishment is the team that I have behind me, from a routing coordinator to our safety and recruiting trainer, our recruiting specialist. to the addition of a new fleet manager, which was the position that I held previously. So we brought in a new fleet manager. Once we will get him trained up, and he'll be an integral part of the team. But that's probably one of my greatest accomplishments. Not only the drivers that I have, some of them are tenured, some of them been here 10 years, some been here 5 years. Some have just recently joined us, but they seem to be happy considering they came. Some moved from out of state and they move here, and they tell me about their experience with their station department where they came from, whether it be the age of their buses, just their co-workers in general, how everything here seems like everybody's willing to work together and they enjoy being a part of the team. So I think you know that's probably one of my greatest goals is to include everyone in what we got. I came from a tight knit family. My mom, when she was living, she would cook Sunday dinners, for her kids every Sunday. And that's what we would do after church every Sunday. We would come to her house, we would have dinner, you know. Even when she was in a sickly state before she passed, she would still try to make an effort to make sure that we gathered weekly. So, and I think, and I bring that here, I try to make everybody, hey, you're family.
That's a nice touch, and it's evident. I see such a change, such a good change, and I hear it over the radio when your drivers just jump on and say, "Oh, I'll be happy to pick up those kids if you're running behind." And that, to me, it might seem small, but that's something that is so beautiful when I hear that pitch in, and then seeing you behind the wheel of a bus because you're okay with getting in the trenches with your team. And I do think that returns a lot of respect. They're willing to work harder because they know that you would do the work too.
Yeah. I would say teamwork makes the dream work. That's my motto. I mean, you've probably heard them say that over the radio once or twice.
Well, thank you. Thanks for spending some time with us on the show. It really does help to get to know all the different areas just a little bit more and have a better, deeper appreciation for all the facets of education because it's not just inside the classroom or inside the bus or outside the bus. It's all of us working together. So, and join the conversation if you're a teacher, parent, or just EduCurious. See you again soon. Thanks, everybody.